so baby, I'm trying to get away. Trying to lock in the guap, trying to block all the pain. I'm a blind little boss, I'm on top of the game. I've been plotting a lot, now I'm tossing your bait. Yeah, my pops got caught, didn't lock them away. My mom fought hard, 5 jobs in a day. I'll be dropping the vibes, but I'm copping the pain. We out for the stars, to a tropical place. Ooh, yeah, I'm spitting it heavy, the mission is steady. Your bitches are jelly, I'm ditching the petty. You're digging for pennies, I'm itching to ready. I open my heart when I listen to Shetty. I'm bold like a boss, but I'm little like Debbie. I know it's a bronze, I got richer than Getty. I'm holding the guap and I'm whipping the Yeti, yeah, Kari can play with advanced moves. I'm fucking my girl and her man too. I'm taking the ball like the ran do. My soul is the one that I can't lose. I soak up the sun like a sand dune. I'm holding up love with the bamboo. I'm rolling the blunt by the candle. Taking the game, running it back without taking a drink. Yeah, I'm the one and I'm making a wave. Rolling the blunt and I'm blazing a J. I'm escaping the brain, go straight for the cake. I'ma take to the bank, now taking a break. I'm made for the race, I pray for the day. I wake with a bake in the greatest state.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jay, he's Maddie, and it's Sunday.
Best day of the week. It's Sunday. It's finally time, and I don't have to have a Sunday where I'm worried about the Dallas Cowboys. For once, I mean, I am worried about the Dallas Cowboys, but I don't have to worry about them actually playing today. They've already got their terrible performance of win out of the way, so that's good.
I was going to say, you might have got the win, but you may have a lot to still worry about. But, okay, we'll be nice today. The Cowboys are playing.
Yeah, the Cowboys aren't playing, but Jay, we do need to react.
Tom, Jay.
Yeah, morning. Well, good afternoon over here, but good morning to you. But we do have to react to that Dallas Cowboys game, Jay. First up, unfortunately. So the Dallas Cowboys played the New York Giants on Thursday Night Football. Dallas escape. They survive with a 20-15 win. Brandon Aubrey missing his first kick of the season to ruin the spread for, I imagine, a lot of people there. But Jay, was the win enough for the Cowboys? Was that enough, or do we need to see more?
A win is a win, right? And so you'll take any win in the NFL. There's only 17 games, but it left me with more questions than answers.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I think, look, getting back to 500, getting back to 2-2 on a short week after getting trounced 2 weeks in a row is always a good thing. On a short week, getting out with the win, fine. That's good. Awesome. I'm glad they survived it. It's a divisional matchup. But really, looking at a lot of that wasn't enough. And they've also ended up losing Micah Parsons and Lawrence for scans that look like they are worse than we expected, as quoted by Mike McCarthy. So that is also horrendous. Okay, Micah Parsons hasn't played well, and Lawrence also hasn't played well, but losing them both to their backups is not going to look good. So, Jay, what does losing Micah Parsons and Lawrence look like for the Dallas Cowboys?
Anybody got a running back? Because that's all you need to do.
Yeah.
Just run the ball against the Cowboys now. 57 times a game. Just run the ball 57 times a game.
And we weren't pressuring Daniel Jones at all either, by the way. Even when Parsons was on the field, I was messaging you, just there's zero pressure here. There's nothing. Because actually, the Dallas Cowboys just put up the best running defense of the year against the New York. I know it's against the New York Giants, but that is the least rushing yardage that we've had so far this year in the Giants game. That's a vast improvement in the running game to being the worst team in the NFL in terms of yards per game. They've just put up the lowest amount of yardage in a game, but that was against the New York Giants. Lawrence is a great run defender, defends the run really, really well. Micah Parsons is our best graded run defender, but it also just means the pass rush is just non-existent. And to pass rush now without a guy like Micah Parsons, without a guy like Lawrence, they're going to have to sell out on the pass. So if you can run play action against the Cowboys, if you can get them into run sets and then pass on them, then that's it. That's a game up. And Dallas Cowboys defense in fantasy felt like a good trade at the start of the year, but it's not looking so good so far.
No, and their DBs still scare me. So, with run issues, the secondary too, I think there are a lot of problems. But here's the problem. I'm more convinced it's Mike Zimmer.
Yeah, I think there's a huge drop-off there from Dan Quinn to Mike Zimmer, is what I've seen. There's a huge drop-off from Dan Quinn to Mike Zimmer. And the front office can't do anything. If a defensive coordinator is offered a head coaching job, they're most of the time they're going to take it. And in Washington, like maybe didn't look like the best head coaching job, but he's landed himself with a really great quarterback. We know he can put together a really great defense. Whether he always calls the right plays on defense, Dan Quinn, like he sometimes overloads and all of that kind of stuff, but they looked great last year. And it's the same set of players. The only player that's missing is possibly the most important player for Mike Zimmer's purposes would have been Leighton Vander Esch. He's possibly the biggest player that's missing. And Deron Bland, obviously, missing as well. But Stephon Gilmore is a bigger miss than people are giving credit for as well, especially with Bland going down injured. But Jay, how much can
Gilmore, let me tell you, I don't know who would let that guy go.
Some player, right? The weirdest thing
about is 130, but yes.
Yeah, well, the weirdest thing about them letting go of Stephon Gilmore is if Bland was fit, then Stephon Gilmore would have been the third cornerback in our room in terms of you could have let him cover the slot. You could have let him just go around and he's not going to get burnt by their fastest player because you can just put Bland on the fastest player, Diggs on their best wide receiver, and then Gilmore just shuts down whatever else you ask him to shut down. So it's a weird thing for them to let go. But Jay, how much can we take from the Cowboys' improvements against the running game? Because it was a huge improvement in that game, but a lot of Cowboys fans saying, yeah, we fixed the run game, here we go. But I don't see it. What do you think?
I honestly think you have the worst running back room in the NFL.
I meant in terms of defending the run. We have the worst running back room in the NFL, 100%. I agree with you.
I think you're in trouble now when two of your best defensive players are hurt. Again, though, so when it happened at least once, but I don't remember how many, if it was more. Zimmer has Micah come right up the middle. Just Daniel Jones blasted, nowhere to go, nothing to do. And then I swear I didn't see it again.
No, it was the same with the Ravens thing. It was the same with the Ravens game. And I think the one player that has shown a bit of something for the Cowboys in terms of defense is Overshown. I think Overshown looks really good. It looks like we've got a good player in our hands in his second year after taking a huge injury last year. So maybe we can get some blitz packages, and obviously not Micah Parsons style brilliant, but he's the piece now that we maybe just send flying around the field that we should have been doing with Micah Parsons. But I don't think Zimmer can do it. I don't think Zimmer can do it. I think he wants everybody to run their gap, but the Cowboys defense has never been predicated on everybody doing their job perfectly. I
don't think that's your biggest problem, though.
Yeah. I think
your offensive line is a bigger problem.
Yeah. So let's move on to the offensive line then, Jay. So are the Cowboys exposing their offensive line rookies to too much? Are they asking them to do too much? Because I believe that Guyton, he's our left tackle. He's the starting left tackle in the NFL, but I think he keeps on getting left alone, completely solo. And he did well against...
He's a left tackle.
Okay. Yeah, he did okay against Myles Garrett, but he's getting left completely alone.
He's a left tackle. That's what you do.
I know he's... Well, I mean, you have one of the best left guards and right guard combinations in football in the middle. You could help them.
Then he shouldn't be a left tackle.
Yes, but other left tackles, other teams are chipping with tight ends. He gets no help. He gets no chipping with tight ends on the best pass rushers. It's every down he's going against experienced vets. And I think he had an appalling game. And actually, he only seems to get beaten by one move, but it's the worst move to get beaten by in football. And it's the inside step. He's blocking them up on the outside really well, and then just lets them cut into the inside, which is just going to get Dak absolutely smoked the entire time. If you're going to let a player rush on the inside of you. So Guyton has one move he needs to fix. Guyton was always a project, a left tackle, always a project. And I think they're just exposing him to maybe a little bit too much.
Okay, so Hitman and I were saying, or I was saying to Hitman, Maddie has a hard time wrapping his head around that his offensive line is trash. And I watched, what's the center's name again? But the center, Smith and Guyton get thrown the fuck around. Cooper got beat once.
Cooper B got beat once in that entire game.
He was getting pushed back into the lap.
Yeah, but he gets beat once in the entire game.
When you get shoved back into the lap, that's getting beat.
I don't think he was getting. I watched it. I was watching it because you told me to. I was watching it with you, and I think getting pushed back into the lap of Dak is just not true.
He
I
was
don't think
getting
that's how far.
shoved back 2 to 3 yards on almost every play. How do you play like that?
I don't know. I don't think he was getting shoved. I thought I think there was a few plays where he was getting a push in the run game, and then getting pushed back in the pass game and stuff like that. He's an Eagles fan.
Doesn't mean he's not telling the. You're a Cowboys fan. You're even more blind to it, I swear.
But yeah, I think with no, I do think they had a terrible game on the offensive line. I do agree with you in this, and I think Beebe. I do think Beebe and Guyton were always projects, and I think they've been exposed to stuff a little early. And I don't think the game plan is helping. I think Beebe is the biggest issue. I do agree with you. I think you would be able to offer Guyton more help if Beebe wasn't getting blown up in the run game as much. Like, Zach Martin needs to help Beebe out on many occasions. So I do agree with you. I don't think he was getting pushed back on every play, but I do think a lot of that might have been to do with Zach Martin.
In the backfield.
Yeah, exactly.
So he doesn't he's not a good center.
Well, I think he's I don't think he's ready to start in the NFL. I don't think he's ready to start in the NFL yet. I think he was always a project. So I agree with you. I think Guyton,
not good.
With some just support, some tight end chips or just anything, might have had a better chance, might have had an actually decent chance to help.
But he's your left tackle. You're supposed to go, you got dude coverage. That dude is yours. Don't let that dude come across the line. And he can't do it.
Yeah, and he seems to only get beaten by one move.
Be nice now. Be nice.
And that's the craziest thing. He seems to only get beaten by one move, but it's so shit for Guyton and for us that the one move is the worst move to get beaten by in the NFL. It's just race you to the outside and then step inside. Madness. That's the worst thing you could possibly get done, because if you're getting beat on the inside, then Dak has no chance to escape the pocket. And I thought the Giants' defensive line were okay. I thought that Dak played fine, considering everything going on.
I think you guys made the Giants' defensive line look like the Giants when Eli Manning was there and they won 2 Super Bowls. They looked that good. I felt like that was, and when it comes to Guyton, it's his feet. And if you don't have quick feet, you're fucked at left guard or left tackle. Yeah. You better move a guy with slow feet into guard.
Yeah, I would rather.
Again, I'm going to beat the drum on what the fuck is Jerry thinking starting a guy who's never played center in the NFL.
Yeah, I would rather.
It doesn't even look like he's a very good guard, because he kept getting shoved back.
I wouldn't mind seeing if it continues to look like this is Beebe moved to because it can't get you've got to find something to fix it, right? Because we have Hoffman, who is a center with just a lot of off-field issues, is why he didn't get drafted higher in college. So we have Hoffman. So you can put Hoffman in at center. We can try and move Beebe to right guard and see how he is. We can then put Tyler Smith at left tackle, because Tyler Smith at left tackle, standing in for Tyron Smith, actually looked okay last year. And then you move Guyton over to right tackle to see how that looks. And I know the switch from left tackle to right tackle, everybody says, oh, do it because it's easier. Everybody says that kind of stuff, do it because it's easier and those kind of things. But it's worth just having a look if it continues to look like this. But I think keep it the same for now, and we'll see how it goes. What doesn't help an interior offensive line is they know there is no threat from the running back. If you know there is zero threat from the running back, then you're okay. You can just set off and just pile straight through. And if I get blocked on this one and I overcommit, it's okay. I'm not going to get punished. So the Cowboys running back room really needs to sort itself out as well. I've seen a lot of criticism for the refs on this game, including from Hitman. I've responded to Hitman on Facebook about the criticisms. I don't think the refs should be criticized for this game at all, apart from one call, which was horrendous on the face mask. I don't think they should be criticized for this game at all. I think both teams were just so sloppy and so terrible that they gave them no option to be flagged every single play. Like the
I
offensive
think
line play and the defensive line play was so bad that they had to flag everything.
no, they didn't. This is the number one flagging ref group in the NFL, and they outdid themselves. They were more of a storyline than the teams. And if you watch it, you don't have to call it every time somebody coughs.
Yeah, I think like I do get it, but it felt like on both sides, both teams were particularly sloppy as well. Like when they showed the replays,
I think the
was
refs
like, okay,
help
no,
make them look sloppy. I really do. I think that because this crew calls more flags than any other one. I think the NFL. Okay, so last year the refs were a lot of the storyline we kept hearing, and then it would snowball because there'd be some egregious bullshit that would cost somebody a game. And then everybody would pile on and be like, do you see what happened in the first quarter of the Chiefs game? Do you see what happened in the first quarter of the Packer game? Do you see what happened? You know, I don't think we've had that this year, except on Thursday, the refs were like, this game is about us. We are going to make this game about us.
I think there has been a noticeable amount of penalties and flags this year on pre-snap stuff. So like false starts, offsides.
The lineup thing was
formation,
a little ridiculous in week
shift,
1, but
things like illegal shifts and all of that kind of stuff. And I don't think the Cowboys and the Giants helped themselves. I think they didn't. I think they both played a sloppy game, and they allowed the refs to call it. Now, did the refs have to call it? I don't think so. But like, don't give the ref an opportunity to call it if you don't want them to call it. What the refs are allowing them to do a lot more this year, and what we're seeing a lot less of, is just like stuff that would have been called pass interference all year last year. It's just going like they're like, yeah, go for it. Like we can do that, and I'm all for it as long as it's across everything, as long as it's across every game. I'm all for it, you know. But I feel like they're letting a lot of hand fighting go, a few early hits on wide receivers and stuff like that go, which I'm all good with. But a lot of pre-snap penalties, and I thought they were particularly sloppy in that game. But Jay, does that game confirm it's time to move on from Daniel Jones? Because the Cowboys should have really lost that game. Like the Giants had 10 more minutes in possession. They were outgained, I think, in terms of yardage. And Daniel Jones missed some wide open throws. Like there were a few plays where Daniel Jones just completely whiffed. And I think everybody feels like it's time to move off Daniel Jones, but now it's time, right? For next season, move off Daniel Jones.
Actually, I thought to myself during that game, Daniel Jones is going to play just good enough this year to put them in a fucking bind.
I feel like he didn't play well. I feel like the result was close. I feel like the Giants are going to get some close enough results to put them in a bind.
Daniel Jones will make like 3 throws in a row, and you're like, fuck, this dude could play if he just get his shit together. And he's going to do just enough to make Daboll, because Daboll's a good coach, make Daboll and them question, do we move on and start over? Do we keep him? Do we do this? Do we do that? I don't know. I don't know exactly what his contract is, but maybe it's one of those, we get somebody else to replace you and keep you for another year type deals.
Yeah, I think with the Giants on Thursday anyway, and I think the Cowboys helped them look a bit like this, but they've played some close games. They've got a win against the Browns as well. The Giants might genuinely just get enough wins to put them out of the top QB, like the top rookie QB drafting positions as well.
Also, people aren't seeing this coming, but it's coming. There is going to come a point where these top players go, don't draft me. I made $8 million in NIL money. I will sit out and re-enter the draft next year if you draft me.
Yeah, I think Caleb Williams was close to that point if the Bears didn't look like they started to get their shit together. Like the Bears at the end of last season looked like they were getting their shit together, right? They were like, okay, the defense is playing really well. Like, and then we'll go and we'll do this and we'll do that. And Caleb Williams looked like, oh, I might do this. Like halfway through the season, it looked like he might sit out.
I think they'll be able to control their landing spot better is what it's going to be. Yeah. Because I think once one of them actually pulls the trigger and does it, teams are going to start listening when guys are like, if you draft me, I will sit. And if Caleb Williams, the way it looks, he might have made the wrong choice.
I think the Giants might be a difficult team to turn down for that kind of thing, though, right? Like New York, huge market, Like
Everybody
not
says
an
that,
amazingly
but
run franchise.
huge
But
market just means that you get fucking beat up every day
the
in the media.
Yeah, the media in New York is horrendous. Like the media in New York is horrendous. But if you're making big NIL deal money, there's a lot of advertising money out there. So if it's the money keeping you, but yeah, I guess if it's the actually wanting to go out and win, then New York might not be the place for you. But and I don't think for them. I think everybody kind of laughed at them about the Saquon Barkley trade, but I don't actually think for them that Saquon Barkley is a huge miss because I don't see them doing any better with Saquon Barkley there because you need to have a half decent team, right, for a Saquon Barkley to make a difference. So he's making a huge difference in Philadelphia. He's making a huge difference in Philadelphia. The biggest laughing stock is actually that they traded him to Philly. That's the one thing, right? Like trading him in division. Sorry, they let him walk. Yeah.
I think we watched a completely different game than each other because I was watching that game and going, "Oh, Saquon would have made that a 20-yarder instead of a 6-yarder."
I don't know. I think that I don't know. I think the Cowboys genuinely just completely sold out on the run that game. I think they basically went, Daniel Jones isn't going to beat us, so we're just only going to defend the run. And I don't think the Giants' O-line is just good enough.
Picks up 6, which would have been 20. And I literally thought this to myself during the game. So I think we watched a completely different game.
I was watching a lot of runs from Cowboys running backs and thinking the same thing if we had anybody else, like Dowdle leaves a lot of yardage on the field. Our best running back is genuinely Lupke, than the 40, the fullback. He's genuinely our best running back at the moment. So yeah, anyway, Cowboys, a lot more questions than answers going forward. At least they got a win and a long week now. So that's okay. But not a good start from the Cowboys. On to segment 2, Jay, and it is time for GMJ. Now, I think this is my favorite segment that we do on the show. It's where we ask Jay to be the. Let's just quickly answer this question from.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Jones is a fucking moron.
No, nobody knows why the fuck he isn't playing. There was loads of stuff coming out last week about him maybe being activated to the roster. So we'll see. Hopefully, off a long week now, he'll hopefully be activated to the roster.
Jerry hates Matty and doesn't want him to be able to play him in fantasy.
I know, right? Yeah, Delvin Cook is just sitting there, just putting on massive O's on my fantasy football thing at the moment. And it's really frustrating because I know he would be the starting running back as soon as he plays one game for the Cowboys. As soon as he's activated, he'll be the starting running back. So a nice bench asset.
Maybe Zeke has some pictures of Jerry at a Diddy party, and he's like, if you activate him, everybody's going to find out you like baby oil.
The weird thing is Zeke isn't the problem because Zeke would keep his job. Zeke would keep his current role of running inside zone, because he can't. And then Dalvin Cook would then move to what's ended up being Rico Dowdle's role, outside zone.
Every time I see Zeke on the field, I literally think to myself, how the fuck are you still in the NFL?
They were saying, I remember one of the commentators went oh, it looks good. It's like old Zeke is back. And I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
old Zeke. Old Zeke. Yeah, definitely. So I don't know what the hell's going on with Dalvin Cook. Also, the injuries to Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence look like they're going to last past our bye, which is in week 7. So it looks like they'll hopefully get them back after the bye.
Well, you won't miss Micah because Zimmer doesn't know how to use him anyway.
Yeah, I know, but that's what I was saying in our group chat was I was like, what's going on with Micah right now? Like Zimmer.
Well, no, what you said in our group chat is he's losing money, which was the most ridiculous statement ever.
I think with this injury, like the contract, but I agree with you. I
think he's not realizes he doesn't want to be there anyway. So he's like, you're gonna pay me more than anybody else in the NFL besides a quarterback, or I'll ride out you franchising me like Dak did, and I'll just walk away.
And I'll walk to the Eagles, which would just be
we all know that's where he wants to go. But
yeah, or maybe the Steelers, if that's where he wants to go. But yeah. Anyway, sorry. Jay, into segment 2 of the show, which is GMJ, which is where we asked Jay to be a GM in certain situations in NFL teams, and he gives us what he would do. So, Jay, how would you look to reinvigorate some life into the Cowboys after their lackluster performances?
I think you're fucked because it's too early to start firing people to get that juice. And if you're going to fight, I know everybody's like, fire Mike McCarthy. Why? So you can make Zimmer the head coach? Because that's the guy who needs to go. And if you fire Zimmer, what do you do then? Like, that's the thing. If you're going to fire anybody, it'd be Zimmer, which would be a little bit of poetic justice since he has been known to fire coordinators dead in the middle of a season. But I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. As the GM, I don't think you can just say you're fucked though.
Like, come on,
what can you do?
Call around and try to get some offensive linemen, but beyond that, I don't know what you do. And then if you do get some offensive linemen, are they going to be better than what you have? And I know I say this, and it's only because he's on injured reserve that he hasn't played, and it looks like Ingram stole the job. I think the only starting guard out there right now is Dalton Reisner, who comes off IR after this week. If you're Minnesota, do you give him up? Because the more I think about it, unless you're going to give me a high draft pick, which isn't going to happen, I'm not coming off the best backup in the fucking league that can play three positions. Both guards and center. I don't know if you do that. So I don't know what you do at this point. They needed a running back. They needed some offensive line help. And the defense just looks bad, but I think it's Zimmer. I think it's more Zimmer than the actual talent because you could, yes, a couple guys have left, but your run defense has been fucking atrocious. Like, and I don't understand. They weren't that bad last year. They had moments, but they weren't that bad last year. And now Micah Parsons, you can tell Zimmer's not using him correctly. Maybe the answer is after I walk myself through it, you fire Zimmer.
Yeah, I think if I wanted to reinvigorate some life, if it was just let's put some life and see what happens, it would be activate Dalvin Cook to the active roster and just see if we have something back there. I'd be tempted to try and shift some stuff around on the offensive line after the bye week. So activate Hoffman, put him at center, drop Steele, put Guyton at right tackle, Tyler Smith at left tackle, and see what happens there. But yeah, I'd trying to just get some life. You know,
I don't know what he did because nobody in the NFL wants to fuck with him. But 2 years ago, he was one of the best corners in the league. J.C. Jackson's still on the street.
He looked horrendous as a Charger, but
everybody looked horrendous as a Charger last year. So
in Brandon Staley's defense, you know. So I would get
something in New England when he got back there because they didn't fuck with him after he went back on that trade either. He did something that we all don't know about that the league knows about.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, Jay, second GM job. I think you've got two of the highest paid GM jobs going out there this week. As the GM of the New York Giants, what are you doing at the end of the season to fix your quarterback situation?
Well, like I think they got to ride out the season. Danny Dimes threw some dimes, but was that because that defense was so bad? I don't know. Like I said, I think Daniel Jones is going to do just enough where the Giants are in a situation where, like, do we or don't we? Do we or don't we? And if you can move up and get one of the top guys and you think they're going to be one of the top guys, then go get them. I don't know how many of these quarterbacks are actually coming out, though, because the NIL money is up there and they're getting good money to be at different places. I mean, I don't know what Shadur Sanders is getting for sure, but I'm betting he's getting 7-8 figures to be sitting there. I know he's coming out because his eligibility is gone.
His eligibility, yeah.
I don't know about these other guys. I don't know if we're going to see quarterbacks come out as juniors as much anymore. That's a thing too. Maybe you pray that the Vikings move on and you go after Sam Darnold.
And that's what I was thinking. If I was the Giants at the end of the season, I'm definitely getting rid of Daniel Jones just because, like, I know he's not in New York. Like, I know he's not in New York now. He could, like, Daniel Jones could potentially go somewhere else and look like the 25th best quarterback in the NFL. But if you know you don't have it, then you may as well just move on. I would be looking at a Bryce Young trade, a Sam Darnold trade, or a Russell Wilson trade and seeing where we get to with that. But Jay, your final GM situation is with the Steelers, and if the Steelers continue to win, are you looking to trade Russell Wilson, and who are you calling up to trade with?
No.
No.
If I'm the Steelers, I don't trade him. He cost me $1 million. What if we go on this run? We're about to make the playoffs, and Justin Fields gets murked. He runs around a lot. What if he gets hurt? Russell's sitting on my bench the rest of the season.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with you. I just saw some stories in the.
Unless somebody wants to go, here's a second round pick, which nobody's going to do.
I was reading like a newspaper for the first time in like a long time, like an actual print.
I didn't even
newspaper.
know your generation knew what the fuck a newspaper was.
I'm like, I remember there only being 5 channels on the TV and stuff, but like I was actually reading a newspaper where I saw the story of should the New England Patriots trade for Russell Wilson, and I was just like, that's the stupidest thing ever from just both sides, right? Because there's no point giving away any draft picks because the Patriots are just terrible. There's no point stunting Drake May's development by like doing anything, and you may as well just let Jacoby Brissett get the shit kicked out of him, because at least Jacoby Brissett can kind of take it. Russell Wilson would take 2 hits behind that New England Patriots offensive line, and that would just be the end of. But it all comes down to like how much that. And then from the Steelers' point of view, why would you give it up? Like, it's not like Justin Fields is the most consistent quarterback in the entire world. Obviously, Jay, we've had loads of arguments about whether he's actually a good quarterback or not. But yeah, I would actually, if I was the Steelers GM, I would be tempted to start calling around and seeing if I could sell Justin Fields high. Like, how much can I get for Justin Fields while he's in this part of his career, just to see what comes across my table, and try and trade Justin Fields high while he's playing well.
Okay,
and
I don't
see
agree.
What comes across the table.
I don't agree with the statement I'm about to make, but I think they do. Why would you trade a guy that you think could be your future quarterback? And sorry about leaving you stranded. My dog is needy today, and my wife's not here. But
no, exactly. Like, I would, as a GM, I wouldn't trade Justin Fields while you're winning, but I would just see what comes across my table. I would just see what offers are made, because I think Justin Fields has improved, but I think he's maybe only improved to be in the 20th best quarterback in the NFL.
Right, but you're the GM and the head coach, and you don't want to get fired after the last couple of years you've had. You're not doing that. Like, that's
you don't
the
trade
last
him.
thing
You just ask. Yeah, you just ask why you try and sell people high, right? But yeah, I agree with you. I'm not trading Russell Wilson.
And look at what happened the last time they spent a first-round pick on a quarterback. How'd that turn out for him?
Yeah, I know. Right, like, let's not.
And for any viewers, the Canadian is not really a Canadian, but just so everybody knows, like, Hitman's not being all nationalist with I'm trying to get over on the fucking Canadian.
He's also like not a terrible man to try and swindle in a trade, to be honest. But the fact that you've just admitted that it's a total swindle, Hitman.
If you saw the trade he just tried to give Hitman the other day, it was literally like Canadian was like, hey, give me a starting running back for guys I got off the waiver wire.
Right, okay. Classic. He sent me something absolutely ridiculous for Jaden Daniels once. It was like at the start of the season, I think. It was so.
Moose sent me one for Kyler Murray. I would have accepted if he would have ever told me that he sent me the trade, but then he traded Mahomes before that. So.
Oh, right. Terrible. Okay, yeah, just to finish out, GMJ, is there anyone who you think should be calling up the Steelers and asking Russell Wilson if asking how much it would be to trade for Russell Wilson? Who do you think is in that kind of position?
Carolina.
Yeah, maybe Carolina.
Because he could become their starting quarterback while they figure out their situation moving forward. He could end up being like their next 3-4 year quarterback. The Red Rifle played good. I think that all comes crashing back down, but not Bryce Young crashing back down, if that makes sense. Like,
Yep, agreed.
I think Carolina's going to give people a little bit of issues, but they're not going to win many games with Andy Dalton.
Yeah, so I think Russell Wilson is looking at a Carolina. Like, if I was like Carolina, I'd be
The Raiders.
calling. Yeah.
Minshew has not looked as good as I thought he was going to in with Devontae Adams. I thought Minshew.
No.
But then again, now is that the offense? I don't know. Did Shane Steichen make him look better than? I don't know. You know.
Yeah, and then there's like teams. I don't know. There's like the Dolphins. Like, I guess would come up depending on how Snoop looks.
It sounds like Tua's coming back this year. So.
Okay, cool. The biggest one that I would think if I was a team and I was asking and I knew I could get Russell Wilson for $1 million is the Cleveland Browns. That would be my team if I knew I could.
If
just
you
get him
do
for
it, you have to walk away from Deshaun Watson though, and I don't
I'm-
know. I would too, but I don't
I'm
know
already
if they're
walking.
ready to walk from Watson.
Yeah. If I'm the Browns, I'm already walking from Watson. But yeah. All right, and that is the end of GMJ, my favorite segment in all of YouTube.
Just for the record, and you know I am not a fan of Jameis. I would start him over trading for Russell Wilson.
I would start him. Oh, really? Over trading for Russell Wilson? Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. I don't think I'd do.
Well, Russell even got hurt in fucking preseason. Like,
actually, yeah. I think people forget how old Russell Wilson is, like, as well. Like, he's just not young. So, like,
if I had to guess, he's pushing 35, but I don't know for sure.
I don't know why I think he's like 36, 37, but I think he's around there, right?
He might even be like 33, but yeah, I think he's pushing 35.
He's been in the NFL for a long time. Okay, moving on to segment 3, which is what everybody's here for. This is our Sunday preview for our Sunday pregame show, where we run through every single game.
Give me all the overs. No, I'm just kidding.
Right. We run through every single game on a Sunday, and we talk about the spreads. Because, guys, we pick with the spreads because picking for the win is just too easy. You know, so we make sure that we pick with the spreads. We're doing okay, considering how many upsets have been in the league this year.
All right,
we're
first
doing
game. All right. Maddie was about to get into our records, so
I wasn't going that far. People can watch our last show if they want to hear about our records. We talk about our records every Thursday show, everyone. But yeah, going into our first game, we have the New York Jets, who are -7.5 point favorites against the Denver Broncos. Jay, can the Jets find consistency? Will they look like last week?
I don't think people understand how good Aaron Rodgers is. I just don't think I think they think because last year wasn't his best year, and then all the weird, or the year before, and then last year injured, and all the weird offseason shit he had, and the whole RFK vice president shit, and they get caught up in Aaron Rodgers conspiracy theories and, you know, all the vaccination shit. They forget that this dude is one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play in the NFL, and that team is fucking stacked. And yeah, I don't love the spread, but I'm taking the Jets -7.5 in this game. I think 2 weeks ago in the second half, they started clicking and proved it last week, and it's just going to keep going. And I think people are going to see what – I don't know who was all on the Jets bandwagon with me, but whoever it was, I think they're going to see what we were talking about before the season started.
Yeah, I think the Jets – I think – that Aaron Rodgers last week might have been one of the best quarterback performances I can remember seeing for like a long, long time. And it wasn't just like making insane throws, but it was just completely dissecting a team.
1 second. Did he look back to you? Because I know you saw what I put. He's back in the – that dude can run again too.
Yeah. I just wouldn't want him to do that. I wouldn't want him to ever run.
I don't want him running for yards, but out of the pocket, making things happen. I love – that's where Aaron Rodgers is his best. Bootleg.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the thing that always frustrates me when the Cowboys ended up having to play Aaron Rodgers. He has an amazing record against the Cowboys, but he's won more playoff games in Texas Stadium since he's been in his career than the Cowboys have, you know?
I saw something that like he's won more playoff games than like 5 quarterbacks for the Cowboys added together, like the last 5 or something wild. Yeah.
And it's like he has won more playoff games in AT&T Stadium than the Dallas Cowboys have since he's been in the league. It's like where he's up to. So very frustrating guy to play against for the Dallas Cowboys. But it's that extending the play. Oh no, I'm going to get sacked, but I'm going to make sure we don't lose yards. Flick it out to make it an incomplete pass. Like I think that's like he just never takes a sack. And that's what it looked like. That's what it looked like last week. I think he only got sacked one time. So, pretty great performance from Aaron Rodgers. I think Garret Wilson, they looked really good, but they didn't look perfect. And I think that should be scary for everybody in the NFL. And Alan Lazard is Aaron Rodgers they're just connected.
Two-headed running game. I mean, they have a good defense. I think people sleep on the Jets because they're the Jets and all the shit I just said about Aaron. People have very personal issues against Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I think so as well. But yeah, I'll take the Jets at 7.5. I hate the 7.5. If this was at 6, I'd be like, yeah, fuck it, go touchdown win, awesome. But I hate the 7.5.
For the record, I don't believe most of his shit, but I love that Aaron Rodgers stirs the pot with all of his conspiracy shit.
Yeah,
I love watching Aaron Rodgers interviews. He's so articulate. He's loquacious. He's smart, and he's crazy all at the same time. I fucking love it.
He's the kind of person that convinces stupid people to believe in conspiracy theories, right? Be like guys like Jordan Peterson, right? You know, like guys
I like Jordan Peterson too for the same reason. Though.
It's like I don't believe in the shit that you're saying. Or like Andrew Tate is very similar, where it's like I don't believe in what you're saying, but you
lost me, but I got you.
But it's just like you explain stuff so no, like I don't really like any of them for moral reasons, but like you explain stuff like in such a way that it makes it sound real, and you actually put points together, but then you don't let anybody half intelligent argue against you, but that's fine. Anyway, so I believe that the Jets will win by 7.5. The couple of questions that I have is if Bo Nix plays like last week, then the Jets could have a bit of a problem, a bit of difficulty getting out to 7.5 points. Because I think Bo Nix just needs to settle into the NFL, spread the ball around, and be surprisingly athletic. I think his best play, he made a 20-ish yard run when everything was breaking down and just took off and just went for it. And I think I don't think it's going to be a danger to the Jets losing the game. I think that could be a danger to the spread.
What we're going to learn today is Bo Nix comfortable being uncomfortable, because that Jet defense is going to make him uncomfortable all day.
Yeah, a lot of stuff to worry about in the secondary, especially from the Jets defense. And the other question that I have as a key battle is Patrick Surtain against Garret Wilson. Now, Patrick Surtain has had a bit of an up and down season so far this year, and Garret Wilson has also had a bit of an up and down season. So we'll see where we kind of get to. But I feel like if you could lock off Garret Wilson from a defensive point of view for the Jets, it then becomes a bit harder, apart from the fact that Alan Lazard looked awesome last week and Tyler Conklin looked awesome last week, and Rodgers for his entire for Devontae Adams being in Green Bay had to deal with that the entire time. So we'll kind of see where that gets to. Garret Wilson is also starting for me in fantasy, so I always worry about Patrick Surtain shutting down my fantasy wide receivers.
I don't think he'll follow him the whole game, so I don't think it's something we'll just see it in moments. But when you have two elite players, the advantage usually goes to the offense because they know where they're going.
Yeah, definitely. And also, Garret Wilson did a decent job going up against Gonzalez last week. Gonzalez also did a decent job. Like that was just a good battle. So we'll see.
With Gonzalez, it's hard to be a good player on a shit team too.
yeah, definitely. Okay, so the Carolina Panthers are playing against the Cincinnati Bengals. We won't spend loads of time on this, but the Bengals are -5 in the spread, so they're 5-point favorites. Is this an overreaction to last week's performances in the spread, Jay?
No, and actually, I like the spread to the point where give me the Panthers -5, because I think there's a chance the Panthers win this game because I think Cincinnati's on a snowball downhill. But even if not, I think Andy Dalton keeps it close. And the scary thing is, they were like, the Panthers, we all were. The Panthers suck. Worst team in the NFL. They got no talent. And then Andy Dalton comes in and you're like, maybe it's Bryce Young, but I think he needs to go. I don't think his career is over if he gets out of there. That I'm going to stay. But I don't know if they're going to trade him either because they say they're not going to. And if I'm him, I'm forcing a trade. But
I've got down here, do the Panthers feel better for sitting Bryce Young so they can assess the rest of the team? Because they've got some things out there that they actually need to assess and see how their actual team is built, and can we just plug a quarterback into here, and would that fix a lot of the problems? And I don't think the answer is 1,000,000% yes, we're a quarterback away from being a good team. And I think that Andy Dalton does an excellent job of coming into a team at the drop of a hat and just playing an average level of quarterback play. But they do seem to now have a few weapons. Adam Thielen is now injured, I believe, going through. But Xavier Legette looked okay. I think he's a good fantasy player to watch out for because I imagine he's sitting there in free agency for a lot of people. He's even sitting there in free agency in our league. And he's projected to make 10 points. So Xavier Legette, I think, is a good person to pick up. Or a good person to watch. But yeah, I'm going to take the Bengals -5. I think they showed enough offensively last week. They scored 30 points. They showed enough to suggest that they're starting to click offensively. And I think the Panthers might have just got a bit of a boost from Dalton starting a quarterback that week. I think this might be a slight over adjustment for me. It was when I bet it as my best pick on Thursday, it was at -4. And I felt a lot better at a 4-point spread than I do at a 5-point spread, but I'll still take the 5. Jay, you look like you wanted to say something. No? Okay, cool. Good. All right. So moving on to our next game, Jay, and it is just down the road from you. It is the Green Bay Packers, who are -2.5-point favorites, versus the Minnesota Vikings. And as Jay, home field for the Green Bay Packers is just outside of your house, basically. How much does home field advantage actually matter in today's NFL?
I believe it matters more in the NFL than any other sport.
I debate cricket with you, but there's no point.
We don't even think of that that's not even a sport here. That's something that makes noise in the middle of the woods here. And it's a wireless phone company. That's the only thing cricket is in the United States.
Yeah, but no, I do agree with you. I think the noise levels and stuff like that make a massive difference against the NFL. And I think Green Bay have one of the best home field advantages in terms of wins at home compared to wins away in the league. And I think it does make a big deal for Green Bay. I think it's the history of that stadium as well, I think makes a big deal.
I think it makes more of a difference in Green Bay in about 3 months from now.
Yeah, because of the weather especially.
Yes, it's fucking cold and it's wet. And yeah, I think that makes a bigger difference. So because I don't want to jinx anything and I don't care if I eat this game, give me the Packers -2.5. But like I've said the last 2 weeks, I think the Vikings can win this game. But I'm picking the Packers because it's worked for me so far this year to pick against the Vikings. So let's keep the trend going.
Yep. Okay. Jay, in this game, Jordan Love has been made officially active. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean he's starting.
He's starting because they didn't activate their backup or their third string quarterback. He's coming in wearing a knee brace. I think their biggest problem is that Valentine and Jair Alexander look like both of them aren't playing.
Yeah, Jair Alexander against Justin Jefferson is always a fun.
Jordan Addison lit him up last time.
Yeah. But Jay, should the Packers be playing Jordan Love? What do you think on that?
Okay, two things. And maybe it comes back to bite me and I look like an idiot, but I said this to you when we were talking after the show last week. I'd rather play Jordan Love because I don't have to worry about him coming out and running for fucking 130 yards. Like, I don't have to contain the quarterback with my defense, and I can just gut after him. Especially, I can't. If he's wearing a knee brace, he's obviously not back to 100%, which means he's not as athletic as he was. I think they're crazy for bringing him back with this defense. But I do have to honestly say, I don't know who they play next week. So if it was another good defense, then sure, maybe you just start Jordan Love because it's a divisional game. I think it's kind of crazy to bring him back against Brian Flores.
Yeah, they've got the Rams next week.
Yeah, I would have waited till the Rams probably.
I'd feel a bit more comfortable playing him against the Rams. I would have stuck with Malik Willis. Like, he's looked decent. Like, I'm not saying like Malik Willis is better than Jordan Love. Like, that's not what I'm saying.
Me neither, but his legs scare me more than Jordan Love's legs scare me. Yes.
I think for this particular game, and also the way that Brian Flores lights up a defense is just so unpredictable that if you have an unpredictable quarterback in the backfield like Malik Willis, then at least in a breakdown play situation, he can do something with it. Whereas I don't think Jordan Love is going to be able to do that this week. I'm really surprised that the Packers are favorites in this one. Give me the Vikings with the -2.5 here. I nearly put them as one of my best bets, but I didn't want to jinx it for Jay, if I'm being perfectly honest. So
I don't want to jinx it either. Bets. That's why I stuck with what's been working. So
yeah, I would. I'm taking the Vikings in that one, definitely. I also see this as an Aaron Jones revenge game, and Aaron Jones has looked awesome so far this year. So I feel like Aaron Jones is just going to run 10 times harder.
You can call me a homer all you want, but if people watch, I think as of right now, through 3 weeks in the NFL, he's the best running back in the NFL this year.
He's definitely playing the best running back games in the NFC. I don't know. I think Derrick Henry last week was pretty awesome, so we'll see where he gets to this week. But I think that could be just because he was against the Cowboys' run defense. So we'll see where that's at. Sam Darnold is also guaranteed a starting job for next year, in my opinion. Doesn't have to be with the Vikings; it could be anywhere. That Moose has got his picks in for his betting lines. I like that. Well, I like those. I like those picks. That's fun. Jay, we're going down to Texas now, but we're not in Dallas because they're not playing this. We'll be watching the Houston
we're going
Texans.
to a good team in Texas. Okay, yeah.
The best team in Texas, yeah. The Houston Texans are -5.5 point favorites against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jay, when do we move off Trevor Lawrence's college career, and is Doug Peterson on the hot seat?
And actually, I think Trevor Lawrence has shown a lot over the last few years, and people just shit on him. I was just going to say, I think Doug Peterson's the problem, and it's time to find a new head coach. I don't think you do it till the end of the year because it's going to not do you any good, and he's not like sinking the team. Like where I think Zimmer's hurting the Cowboys, I don't think Doug Peterson leaving would help the Jags at all right now. I was going to say, though, Doug Peterson probably needs to go. This game scares me a little only because it's a divisional game and they're always close, but give me the Texans minus the 5.5, is it? Yeah, 5.5.
Yeah, I think with the Doug Peterson conversation, I think he might have the same kind of thing as Dan Campbell, where he's good when he gets in there early and he makes big changes, and the Jags looked good early under Peterson, but he wears on teams a little bit. We saw that happen in Philly as well, where he wasn't getting on with his quarterback. I think Trevor Lawrence is living off what he's provided so far in the NFL. I think like you do take his potential into account and what he showed in college, that's fine. But Trevor Lawrence has shown enough in the NFL to say that he's easily a starting quarterback, at least in the NFL, and a higher level one possibly.
You go after like a Slowick or a Johnson or something in the offseason.
Yeah, 100%.
Get one of those guys in there for your offense, and I think you see a different Trevor Lawrence too.
Yeah, and they look at the fact, like guys like that look at the fact you have a quarterback like Trevor Lawrence, and they're like, shit, if I can make this guy who we thought he was going to be, I'm a head coach for the rest of my life, like somewhere. You know, whether that's like I'm always going to have a head coaching job, whether that's in the NFL, whether that's in college, because I can always say, oh, I made Trevor Lawrence look good again, you know? I worry about the Texans stumbling a little bit. They've played a lot of close games, but I think like the Jags don't have enough to cope with the Texans defensive line or the Texans offense, especially if they had Mixon. I would like the Texans even more, but I think the Vikings game, I think they just got completely like overwhelmed by Flores' defense. So, yeah, we are now moving on to Tampa Bay, where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are playing against the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Philadelphia Eagles, Jay, are minus 1.5 point favorites. What have you got on this game? The Philadelphia Eagles are missing AJ Brown and Devontae Smith on the offensive side of the ball.
All right. I was just trying to see if I think Mixon's in.
Oh, they got Mixon in for the Texans as well. Oh,
no,
good.
he's out. He's out.
He's
As
out,
of
right.
yesterday, he had some points by his name in fantasy with a questionable, but he's out. So I was just making sure. But I couldn't remember. I have 3 fantasy teams, so I couldn't remember which fantasy team he was on for me.
Just checking.
I think Tampa wins this game straight out. So give me Tampa minus the 1.5 because I think Tampa wins this game. I think AJ Brown was huge being missing, but I think people forget that when Baker loses, he comes back like a man on fire the next week.
Yeah, I also think looking at this Eagles game, like obviously the Eagles got completely whacked by the Bucs in the playoffs, and I can't see where the Eagles have got better since that game, whereas the Bucs I think have got better since that game as well. Now, like I think the reason that I can't see where the Eagles have got better is largely because now they're without their 2 best wide receivers at the moment as well, because their defense really showed up last week. Like their defense looked really legit at points
for the
last
Eagles
week as well.
To win, Saquon Barkley's going to have 150 yards rushing and 50 yards receiving.
Yeah, the Bucs are without Rashad White. I think is a big miss for them too in terms of the running game. When you've got to run against that front that after I slated them last week,
Bucky,
the
rookie.
Yeah. Bucky Irvine looked good, man. Like he looked really good. It's just running against. I think you definitely need a 2-headed running back when you're running against Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis in the middle. With the way that they played last week, they looked great. Last week when they came out, they looked like they'd fixed that problem. But Mike Evans on Mike Evans and Chris Godwin on that Eagles secondary, I think has a lot of problems. And I think Baker Mayfield, I agree with you, does fight back after last week. You know, I think he always fights back after a poor performance. So yeah, give me the Bucs in that one. That was one of the ones where I was really surprised against the spread. It's another one of the ones that I nearly took as one of my best bets. But I don't like betting against the Eagles in my best bets just because I don't want to jinx it my way, you know. Now we move on to the Indianapolis Colts, who are playing against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have already had a bit of airtime. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 2.5 point favorites here. Can Anthony Richardson play with just a bit of consistency in this game? Or is that what you want from Anthony Richardson? Do you want him to just be him and just see what happens? Jay, what are you doing if you're the Colts and getting the most out of Anthony Richardson in this game?
I'm not worried about him. This is his 7th game?
Yeah.
I'm not worried about Richardson yet. Yes, he definitely needs to grow, that kind of thing. But the problem with this is you're going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, and I think that causes a lot of problems. I was really torn on this game because really my gut feel like it. I want to go with Indy, but my head's telling me Pittsburgh. So I'm going to take the Steelers minus the 2.5 because I think that Pittsburgh defense is going to cause problems. Even though they're on the road, I think they're going to cause a lot of problems. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the Steelers have a great record since Peyton Manning was gone in Indy.
And the Colts, right? Okay. I didn't know that. I think with the I think the Steelers, are a particularly bad matchup for a quarterback like Anthony Richardson because they'll force you with a guy like TJ Watt out there. They'll force you into having to make dumb decisions. And I think Anthony Richardson tries to do too much. Like in this game, I think Anthony Richardson will try to do too much and make a dumb decision. And the Steelers have seemed to got Justin Fields into just a thing of like, just do enough. Like, just don't throw the game away. Don't lose as the game, you know? And I feel like that is good enough for what the Steelers want from Justin Fields right now. So I think they force Anthony Richardson into at least one dumb decision in this game. And I think that's what carries them over the spread of 2.5 points. That one dumb decision. So I think the Steelers are excellent at forcing quarterbacks like Anthony Richardson into that. We now head down to Georgia, where the Atlanta Falcons are -3 point favorites against the New Orleans Saints. Jay, was last week the Saints just coming back down to earth? The Saints becoming the team that we thought they were going to be?
Yes. Because the weeks before it was Alvin Kamara going off and then everything following off of that. You shut down that running game. You make them pedestrian. You make them look like the New Orleans Saints that we know. I don't have any faith in the Atlanta Falcons either, though. That's a fucking problem in this game. I guess give me Kirk -3. I don't know. I'm going to say Kirk's a better quarterback than fucking Derek Carr. So give me Kirk -3.
Yeah, I think with the Saints coming back down to earth, I think they were always going to come back down to earth, right? Like Derek Carr was making, I think it was like around 70% of his deep throws. Like he just had a crazy completion rate with everything deep, and it was just always going to happen that they were always going to come back down to earth. Now, I didn't think they'd look as pedestrian as they did, and I think they might find a little bit here. And I think that like the Eagles defense just fronted up like last week as well. So I think they may find a little bit here. But I also think the Falcons defense has gone sneakily under the radar. And they're actually quite a good defense. Like they played a good game against the Kansas City Chiefs last week. So I think they have the ability to shut down the Saints. I've got the Falcons at -3 as well, Jay. Jay, going to your division rivals, the Chicago Bears are -3 point favorites against the Los Angeles Rams. How can the Bears actually help Caleb Williams in this game?
Oh, in this game. I thought you meant overall because I was going to be like, fire everybody. How about you run the fucking ball and not make him throw 50 times? That might help. I'm just saying. But with that being said, I think this, even with the injuries, I think this spread is wild. And give me the Rams and the points.
Yeah, for me, this was a bet of the week, an absolute lock bet that the Rams are, because it's actually gone towards the Bears as well.
Yeah.
Oh no, it stayed the same. It stayed the same at 3 points throughout the week since we picked. But I think it's a totally crazy spread. Like the Rams beat the 49ers. They haven't picked up more injuries since they beat the 49ers. And the Bears lost to whoever they lost to last week. Was it the Colts? Or they just beat the Colts, or they lost to the Colts, or whatever last week.
Yeah.
They didn't play a good game. Whoever.
No.
They lost to, it wasn't the Colts. I can't remember who.
No, I'm trying to think who they made him throw 50 times against too. But
yeah. But anyway, yeah, and they're making Caleb Williams throw 50 times, and there's a lot of people saying, "Oh, well, that's what he did in college. Like, you give him easy reads, and he hits those, and he hits those." And it's like, yeah, that's what he did in college. Like, at least let him acclimatize to the NFL.
He didn't his last year at SC.
Yeah, and he didn't look that good when he did in college, but let him acclimatize to the NFL, run the ball. And I think like their genuine worry is that they don't really have a good run game. Like they might be competing with the worst running back room in the NFL with the Dallas Cowboys as well. Like,
oh, I think you guys are runaway winners of that.
Oh yeah. It's a fight for second that the Bears are more in. Like we're the worst by an absolute mile. But yeah, I've seen a few people say, is this a come down game from the Rams? But I think even if it is a bit of a come down game from them being the 49ers, I still think they've got enough to beat this Bears team, especially if they refuse to run the ball against Caleb Williams and the way that Sean McVay runs the ball. And I think Sean McVay always finds a new wrinkle in his offense to add in. So I don't think the injuries have actually affected them horrendously. Obviously, I would wish that they didn't have as many injuries going into this game, but yep, definitely taking the Rams on this one. Jay, the biggest spread of the NFL season so far goes to the San Francisco 49ers, who are 10.5 point favorites against the New England Patriots. Have the 49ers done anything to deserve this spread?
Well, I mean, they're the 49ers and they're playing the New England Patriots. And I hate doing this, but give me New England give me the New England plus the 10.5 because that's a huge point spread. But I wouldn't be shocked if the fucking 49ers won this game by 20.
Yeah, this is the kind of team that the 49ers dominate, like by 20. However, I think the Rams have had a lot of speak about the 49ers, about their injuries and stuff like that. But the 49ers are massively injured as well. Like the 49ers have got to do a lot of shifting on their offensive line. I'm not sure whether that's Kyle Shanahan's strength when things break down and he's got to think a bit outside the box, and far from me to criticize Kyle Shanahan and everything like that. But I agree with you. I'm going to take the Pats plus the 10.5, just because I think 10.5 is just huge.
Yeah.
Like 10.5 is just a huge spread at this point of the season when the 49ers are so injured. And the Pats have shown enough on defense at points, you know?
Yeah, I agree with you. And shout out to the 2 people who subscribed during this show. If you haven't already, please hit that like and subscribe. We appreciate you guys and your support and watching.
Yeah, that takes us to within 10 of our next 100. We're up to nearly 700.
9 away. 9 away.
9 away. 9 away. So we have people watching the stream right now who, if you haven't subscribed already, you should be hitting the subscribe button to get us up to that next 100. That's what you should be doing. Just letting you
help
know.
us out. Help a brother out.
Just help us out. You know, we're actually doing all right. I feel like this season we're doing well.
So
all right.
So
the
Cardinals versus the, as they would say on Pat McAfee, the commies.
I think we might be at one of my 2 of my darling teams this year, even though one of them's in my division. The Arizona Cardinals are minus 3.5 point favorites against the Washington Commanders. Who's been more impressive, Kyler Murray or Jaden Daniels?
Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, I agree with you on this one. Jaden Daniels has been the most impressive, largely due to the fact he's a rookie, also largely due to the fact he had an absolutely insane game last week. Kyler Murray has been better over the first 3 games of the season, but last week Jaden Daniels was
If you're asking me right now who's the better quarterback, it's Kyler. He's been in the league. He knows how to play. But if you're asking me who's been more impressive, it's Jaden Daniels, because I expect what I'm seeing from Kyler to happen.
Yeah, definitely. At minus 3.5, Jay, I think this is the one that I undernard with the most throughout. I think both might be ending up pushing for the postseason when people weren't giving them a lot of hope beforehand. I think if they make it, it'll be an excellent achievement. But Jay, who are you taking in this game? Cardinals versus.
Give me the Commanders and the points, but I think the Commanders win this game.
The Cardinals. Oh, you think the Commanders win this game? But
give me the Commanders plus the 3.5 or whatever. But I think they'll end up winning. But I'll take the points just in case.
I think that the Cardinals have shown a higher base level of play than the Commanders so far this year, and I think the Commanders might come down just a little bit from last week, which I think will give the Cardinals the win by the 3.5. Yeah, I hope, but I hope that Jaden Daniels still lights up the field. Being my
quit hating on the this year's NFC fucking East champions. Like, quit hating.
Yeah, I don't hate that take. Oh yeah, that was in our overreactions last week, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was my overreaction last week. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The Chiefs are minus 7.5 point favorites against the Los Angeles Chargers, Jay. The Los Angeles Chargers obviously playing a brand of football where you just you don't play offense at all. Jay, where are you at with this one?
The Chiefs by way more than 7, because people have been talking so much shit about the Chiefs the last 2 weeks. Like they can't play or something. I don't know why people think they can't play. And you got an injured Justin Herbert. You got, a thin wide receiver core. J.K. Dobbins was banged up. I don't know. I'm surprised this isn't the biggest spread. It must be just because it's a divisional game. But give me the Kansas City Chiefs minus the 7.
I think the Chargers make it hard with the way that they play football to put huge amounts of points on them because they will just run the ball. But the Chiefs have an excellent defense. Yeah, the Chiefs have an excellent defense. Like why did this happen all last year? Where because the Chiefs' offense wasn't clicking, they just completely forgot. Great, thanks Hitman for that reminder. Really appreciate that. We're on a different different game, different thing, different topic. But DeMarcus Lawrence is out 4 to 8 weeks class, so he'll be on IR. Anyway, the Chiefs are an excellent defensive team, unlike what the Cowboys will continue to be now. And I don't understand why NFL, like betting things, why NFL media hasn't caught up with this. But the Chargers won't be playing great offense this week, and you have to run the ball against Chris Jones and just a stacked Chiefs defense. And I think that Patrick Mahomes is the reason that their offense hasn't clicked so far this year. But we all know that Patrick Mahomes will eventually make things click this year. Go on, Jay.
Oh, I'm just leaving that sit there for a while to
thanks.
irritate you. Like, that's all. I just like.
He's put a new one on as well. What's the word on Parsons?
Yeah, I know, but this one being out, I was just gonna leave that there for the rest of the show, just to be a dick, like, and see if you actually took it down. I was waiting to see if you took it down.
No, I leave you with the chat. You do what you want with the chat. And guys, those of you who are watching who don't normally watch us, comment stuff in the chat. We throw it all up. We try and answer as much of it as we can.
I was being a dick. So what was the actual question?
I was just saying why the NFL media haven't like picked up on the Chiefs are an excellent defensive team again, and just will Patrick Mahomes get it back together this week, because he's perhaps been the reason that they haven't been clicking so far.
They're blaming too much on Travis Kelce too. It's more on Mahomes' play than it was Kelce's, but I don't know. It's because they always look for the negative, right? So you're not gonna go, hey, can they get better? They're gonna like, their defense is great. They're gonna be like, oh no, like it's panic time. Travis Kelce. I don't know. The mainstream media, they need something to bitch and argue about. It's always the negative.
Yeah, whereas we're always positive here on the non-mainstream media. We're always looking for how teams can get better.
Your offensive line sucks balls.
All right. Moving down to where all of these spreads come from. We're in Vegas, baby, and it's the Las Vegas Raiders playing against the Cleveland Browns. When should the Raiders move off Gardner Minshew, Jay? The Browns are 2.5-point favorites.
After they lose to the Cleveland Browns today.
Yeah, you're taking the Browns in this game. I'm very hesitantly taking the Browns in this game because I think their defense. I think this might be the game where Garrett just goes crazy. All right, Addison.
I agree. I think you double cover Justin Jefferson, maybe even triple bracket him, which leaves Addison open. I think Addison's the guy who has the biggest game today.
Yeah, Juwan Jennings. If you have Juwan Jennings on your bench, by the way, like great work, great pickup in free agency, because he looks like he might be Shanahan's go-to guy during this time where there's a lot of injuries. I wouldn't be trusting Calvin Ridley personally, if it was me, but I think Addison in that Vikings team where Sam Darnold is just dialing up whoever's to the open man with great accuracy, I think Addison might have a big game today. I'm saying this because Addison is also the flex in my fantasy team, by the way, Anthony. Thanks for the comment. Feel free to comment, like, subscribe, all some more. But the Raiders, I'm going to take the Browns in that one. I think they'll at least see what they've got in Aiden O'Connell by the end as well. Devontae Adams, I think, might be trying to force his way out of Vegas very soon. Going forward, Jay, can anybody get the Bills measure right here? The Baltimore Ravens are favorites in Baltimore against the Buffalo Bills. The Ravens are -2.5-point favorites, and
according to Jordan Schultz, Devo's going to play today too.
All right, okay, yeah, so definitely not John Jennings, but take Vegas. Has Vegas lost trust in the Buffalo Bills? The Buffalo Bills had an amazing game last week, and they're underdogs against the Baltimore Ravens, who, although having a good game against the Cowboys, did look shaky towards the end. So, what do you make of this game, Jay?
I kind of went back and forth. I think the Ravens are a better team. I think Buffalo wins this game today.
I think Josh Allen might be playing some of his best ball that we've seen so far. I'm not sure. My biggest question for this game is, are we going to see the Baltimore offense of last week where they ride Derrick Henry? Because I think that would be the best thing for them to do. I think if they ride Derrick Henry and let Lamar run some read options where Lamar takes it into outside zone or throws the ball, but ride Derrick Henry, I think that's the best way for them to win this game. But I don't think they'll do that. I don't think they've blended that offense together well so far. Whereas I think we're seeing some of the best ball that Josh Allen's played. In my opinion, Josh Allen is leading the MVP race right now this year. Go on.
I think you mispronounced Sam Darnold, but okay.
Sam Darnold. I just don't think they'll give it to Sam Darnold. But yeah, I don't hate that. I don't hate that take either.
I don't think he's going to win it, but if we're talking about who's leading it right now, doesn't it have to be?
Yeah, I don't know. I think just some of the numbers that the Bills have put, like Josh Allen's put up on offense, have just been ridiculous. Not that Sam Darnold winning games and putting up decent scores isn't ridiculous either. But I'll be taking the Buffalo Bills in that one today. Jay, going down to Miami, where the Miami Dolphins are minus 2.5-point favorites. How much of a difference will Snoop Huntley make? Vegas have actually made them starting Snoop Huntley has given the Dolphins 1.5 points because this game was -1 to the Dolphins before they announced that he was starting. So how much of a difference does Snoop Huntley make to you?
I mean, he makes a lot compared to starting Skylar Thompson, but I think the biggest thing is he can get out. He can make plays with his legs. He's got a big arm. They're going to figure out now how to use his athletic ability to mix it with Tyreek and Waddle. I think Miami wins. Give me the Miami minus the 2.5. I think Tennessee is one of the worst teams in the NFL. They're definitely in the bottom 5.
Yeah, this is where we disagree on this one. Tennessee are actually one of my lock bets this week at +1. I think that Miami looked really bad like last week in the way that they even tried to run offense. I think there might be some questions about Mike McDaniels coming up and his actual play calling. And I think he's great at designing plays and coming up with creative things, but I think his play calling often leaves a lot to be desired. And I think the biggest question for the Titans throughout the rest of this season is, can they just limit Levis's mistakes?
No.
And we'll see. Yeah, I do lean towards no. But we'll see kind of where they get to with that. I'm taking.
I think Will Levis is proving that he's not an NFL quarterback.
Yeah, I think he's weirdly. I've ended up defending Will Levis just when I was one of his biggest detractors last season, but I've ended up defending him just because I like him in the league.
And you have a man crush on Justin Fields, so I'm not sure what that's all about. But
yeah, I know. I just love mediocre quarterback play. You know, it's just my favorite thing. I used to be.
Are they even mediocre? Like that's the question.
Well, maybe
Will Levis and Justin Fields mediocre.
Well, yeah,
that's a whole nother show, though.
That's another show. We'll see if they can limit his mistakes. We'll see where that ends up. And Jay, our final game of Sunday is this is not on Sunday. This is Monday Night Football. But the Detroit Lions are playing against the Seattle Seahawks. The Detroit Lions are -3.5-point favorites. Jay, are the Seahawks on the rise? Are Detroit kind of stumbling? Or is it Seahawks just having an easy schedule and Detroit just playing football that just tries to get them the win? Where are you at with this one?
I told everybody, nobody wanted to hear me after last season, that Detroit's going to fall off this year. They're not going to have the same magic they had going. I think Dan Campbell coached himself out of a win. I think it's Dan Campbell's fault they didn't go to the Super Bowl. I think players know that shit. Give me Seattle in this game. I think Seattle comes in and trucks the Lions. I think and I'm not saying that the score will be 10 points, but I think when the game's over, we're going to be like, damn, Seattle just put it on them.
Yeah, I think the Lions' offense has really taken a step back this year. I think is taken a serious step back, whereas the Seahawks' defense has really leaped forward. So I think they're going to struggle to score. Now it's how many points can Seattle score? Well, DK Metcalf's look decent. Tyler Lockett looks decent. So we'll see how many points they can rack up and get on the board. But I'm going to take the Seahawks in this one as well. Definitely with the 3.5 points. I think they keep it in with at least a field goal. But I think the Seahawks will go away with the win from this game. Jay, should the Seahawks be looking at quarterback moves at the end of the year, or do you think they're happy with Geno Smith?
I think he's getting old. You always have to look at some. I don't know if you replace him, but you bring in a young guy to learn under him for sure.
Yeah, I think they should be one of the teams that are kind of looking at a Bryce Young, right, and seeing what goes on.
If they had an offensive coach, maybe, but I don't think you bring Bryce Young into a defensive coach. I don't think that's a great situation for him. But I get what you're saying. I don't hate the idea. I just hate the situation for Bryce Young.
Yeah, and I think they should be looking to move on from Geno Smith. I think like he's not the quarterback that's going to take you to like the promised land, right? But he's good enough. But the issue is he's good enough to put you out of the contentions and out of the draft boards and all of that for someone really good. Jay, that's the end of our preview. Just to send everybody off, we do a fantasy players to watch in segment 4, where we give our 3 fantasy players to watch. Jay, I'll go with my 3 first, and then you can go with your 3, and then we'll let everybody go for that awesome Sunday of football. But with 5 minutes to go before kickoff, guys, the fantasy players you should be looking at are Anthony Richardson, just to assess just how good he's going to be for the rest of the season. This is a game where he may want to go off big. Terry McLaurin, I think, is a big guy to have a look at. I got
Scary Terry also. Okay.
Yeah, I think if you've got someone who's got Terry McLaurin and they're on his bench, I would be trying to trade him while he's at a low value now, because I think Terry McLaurin is going to continue to rise up. I think all Miami Dolphins weapons are just people to look at, just with how is this offense going to look with Snoop Huntley in it, because last week the weapons took a big hit because there was no good quarterback play, so we'll see where Snoop Huntley's at. Jay,
so I have
2 outside of Scary Terry.
Scary Terry. Thanks to Anthony, I'm going to definitely say Jordan Addison is actually a player to watch this week. I think that's a good one. And I like the idea. I'm not starting him. He's on my bench, but keep your eyes on Snoop Huntley, because he might be somebody you want to pick up. Or if he's free and you got a little wiggle room on your roster, pick him up. You can always drop him at the end of the week.
Yeah, just a reminder that me and Jay don't actually talk about this before, but we've ended up in kind of like the same place with that one, which is good fun. But yeah, 5 minutes to go for kickoff, Jay. So let's let these people go. Send us out like you always do.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you tune in for all the other shows we got going on. Make sure you enjoy football, and it's one world, one love. Deuces.